Well, just learned, of course, some of that new information along with you. A source did confirm to me that there were multiple vehicles that did speed off from this church shortly after the shooting. So those would be believed to be multiple persons of interest, if you will, that have not been taken into custody. Right now, the crime scene in and of itself, which was much smaller, was focused just on the chapel. Police, over the course of the last hour or so, have expanded that out to kind of just give themselves a little bit more room to work. They had the drone up for a long time. There was a lot of surveillance focus on the rear of the chapel. When I got here, I was looking at the timestamps on my video because time kind of just acts in different ways when you're on a crime scene with so much going around you over the course of hours. My first video that I was able to send back to our station was just before 8 o'clock. The timestamp on a surveillance video I was shared with by a couple that lives in the apartment building next to the chapel was just around 7:50. I'm not sure if that timestamp is accurate or just a few minutes off. But in that video, which we will play for you in just a moment, you can hear a number of gunshots, and then there's a pause, and then there are more. Take a listen. Tuesday night, we are continuing our coverage of the unfortunate events that took place in this town on Sunday night. The result, the deaths of 2 officers from the Tremont and Garland Police Department, and the injury to a 3rd member of law enforcement, being that deputy from the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office and his canine who was in the vehicle when they were fired upon on Sunday night. We learned a lot of that information in the early morning hours, but we also learned new information today after hearing for the first time from the Chief of Police from the Tremont and Garland Police Department, also from the Box Elder County Sheriff and his Chief Deputy, the Tremont Mayor, the Garland Mayor, and a member of the family from the Sorensen family, who's one of the 2 officers that passed. We'll talk about that in just a moment. I want to show you what's happening here outside of the Civic Center in Tremont. It's the City Hall area. This is where they've had a lot of people drop off some flowers and some flags and some balloons. We'll talk about that coming up in a few minutes. Also, last night we were out here at 10:15. They were putting up big signs in the dark showing their support after the sun went down as the community continues to grieve and go through the mourning process following the procession last night. I mentioned for the first time since this took place Sunday night, we had the opportunity to hear from the Chief of Police here in town, the department that oversees Tremont and Garland. Here's Chief of Police Dustin Cordova. Just when you think it's going to be quiet, they ramp back up again. Not really fanning these flames, causing the erratic fire behavior that we saw yesterday, that a lot of you were kind enough to share some video with us. I say that just as the wind picks up here. Definitely not 30-mile-an-hour gusts, but sustained gusts a little bit lower than that. Want to give you a perspective of the fire, how it looks here. There's a helicopter at the top of the ridge. These areas have been more active towards the northern portion of the fire. We just left Richfield. We were there coming through from Monroe over to this area in Glenwood. And I saw this area and I said, you know, this would be an interesting perspective to share. We haven't been here yet, but that helicopter's actually going towards one of the areas that has been burning relatively well since we got here in the last few minutes. And that helicopter actually has a bucket attached, likely dropping water. We saw them earlier today trying to do that same thing over on the Burrville side, which was the most active that we saw today. Again, one of the 2 areas that remain under an evacuation. That would be Burrville, population about 75 people, ranching community. People were going in and out of there doing their thing. And then the other side was Monroe Canyon. Speaking of evacuations, let's hear from Bill Toffer, the Sevier County Emergency Manager. I caught up with him at 5 o'clock in Richfield. Take a listen. Bill Toffer, great to have you with us here live from Park City tonight. I'm Brian Schnee. What a day it has been here in Summit County. We've been trying to figure out, is the Corey Richens situation with jury selection going to take all 5 days that they allotted for it, or will it be done rather quickly? It looks like it's going to be the latter half, where maybe it'll be about 2 days where they will have this jury selected. We'll get the skinny and the lowdown and all of that in just a moment here. Again, thanks for being with us. It is chilly in Park City. We'll get your forecast here in a few minutes. Let's get you caught up on the Richens case. I'm blown away by the amount of people I heard today here inside the courthouse that said, I've never heard of this case. If you've been under a rock, you are in good company. Get you caught up here. March 2022, Corey's husband, Eric, was found unresponsive in their home in Camas. later dies. A month later, his autopsy reveals he died from a fentanyl overdose. A year later, March 2023, Corey published that children's book about loss and grief, and in May, she is then charged with Eric's murder. Now, there are a lot of twists and turns in between all of that, including court battles to change the venue. They even submitted that just a few weeks ago. I guess you can call that in the court world, in the judicial world, legal world, a Hail Mary attempt to try to get things changed here last minute, prolong the situation. Regardless, we are here today now where we've waited for some sort of major movement to happen in this case, and it's finally getting there. For that, let's bring in Liv Kelleher, who's been in Camas most of the day. Liv, we got here this morning around the same time. You're actually on TV before me, and I showed up right at the same time to watch you on television. And then we both learned something really interesting. They were going to open the court for us to be there to witness the jury selection, which was fascinating, by the way, because you get to hear people's perspectives, how much they've heard about this case, what haven't they heard about this case. By the way, most people have heard the headline, Richens, fentanyl, children's book, that sort of thing. But a lot of people didn't know a lot of details. Right. You were in Camas, where a lot of this has deep roots. We go out and talk to people all the time. They normally don't know what we're talking about. Did people know about this case?
Certainly a mix of things here. So we do this all the time. We go out to talk.
It's at 148, just reaching the 206. I have my lights on.
Driver! Show me your hands! Now!
Right now you are being detained.
Yeah. Well, those are some high speeds. Those were on Utah freeways over the course of about a year or so. The need for speed, very prevalent here in the Beehive State. Long stretches of road in rural parts of the state. That's where our focus was for our super speeders piece that aired last week. Thanks for joining us. We're live tonight in Grantsville at The Track, the place to be if you've got that need for speed. We'll get into this over the next 15 minutes or so, and we've got some great folks to line up here and talk all about the car scene and the things to do here, including Trooper Andrew Olson, kind enough to join us tonight because we just aired a little clip right now. I heard it in my ear. You didn't hear it. But some of those speeds that we showed our viewers, 146, 156, 166. The top speed in that piece was 189. You patrolled Tooele County. I'm sure you see some high speeds, especially on I-80. You've been out here about 4 years. What are you seeing as general driving habits as it pertains to speeds on our roads that you patrol?